In the summer of 1816, snow fell in June. Frost sealed fields in July.
Corn will wither.
Across continents, crops withered beneath a sky that seemed permanently dimmed. In villages from New England to the Swiss Alps, bread vanished from tables, livestock died in their stalls, and families abandoned homes in search of food that no longer existed. The sun still rose each morning, but its warmth had faded, and with it the fragile balance that sustained millions. The crisis that followed would become known as the Year Without Summer, a global catastrophe born not of war or revolution, but of a distant volcano whose eruption altered the atmosphere of the entire planet.
We will manage.
The origins of that cold summer lay in the Dutch East Indies, on the island of Sumbawa in present-day Indonesia. Mount Tambora had long been active, but in April 1815 it unleashed one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions in recorded history. On April 10, after months of rumbling, the mountain exploded with a force later estimated at a volcanic explosivity index of 7. The blast column rose tens of kilometers into the stratosphere. Pyroclastic flows destroyed nearby settlements, and ash blanketed the region. Contemporary accounts from ships hundreds of miles away described darkness at midday and detonations mistaken for
This
cannon
aged
fire.
map shows Southeast Asia within the Dutch East
in
Indies.
Indonesia was
Sumbawa
severe.
Island is clearly
Tens of
illustrated
thousands
here,
died from
and
the
this
eruption
subtle red
itself
mark
and from
indicates
subsequent
Mount
famine and
Tambora.
disease as agriculture collapsed locally. Yet the wider significance of Tambora lay not only in its regional destruction but in the immense volume of sulfur dioxide it injected into the upper atmosphere. There, high above weather systems, these gases combined with water vapor to form sulfate aerosols. Suspended in the stratosphere, they reflected incoming solar radiation back into space. The process did not block sunlight entirely, but it reduced global temperatures enough to disrupt climatic patterns across the northern hemisphere. By late 1815 and early 1816, atmospheric changes were already measurable in ice core records and later reconstructed climate data. The year 1816 would become one of the coldest of the 19th century. Average global temperatures are estimated to have dropped by approximately 0.4 to 0.7 degrees Celsius, a small shift in absolute terms but profound in agricultural societies dependent on seasonal stability. The cooling was uneven, but its consequences were widespread. In North America, the winter of 1815 to 1816 lingered into spring. Frost struck repeatedly across New England and eastern Canada. On June 6, snow fell in parts of Massachusetts, Connecticut, and upstate New York. Lake and river ice persisted unusually
Lihatlah,
late.
semua padi kita musnah.
Farmers
Abu
who had
ini
planted corn
membunuhnya.
in May saw
Saluran
seedlings
irigasi
blackened
retak,
by
tak ada
cold.
air. Bagaimana kita bisa bertahan?
Replanting offered
Kita
little
harus
relief.
berdoa.
Subsequent
Mungkin hujan
frosts
akan
in
bersihkan
July
abu.
and even August destroyed second attempts. Reports from Vermont and New Hampshire recorded crop failures approaching total loss in some areas. Grain prices rose sharply. Oats, essential for feeding horses, became scarce, compounding transportation difficulties. The United States was emerging from the War of 1812, its economy already strained. The cold summer deepened hardship. Livestock were slaughtered prematurely because fodder could not be grown or stored. Rural
This aged world
communities
map,
faced
centered on the
shortages
northern
not
lands,
only of
reveals
grain but
cooling
of dairy
impacts.
and meat.
Subtle red zones
In
mark
some
affected
regions,
across
families
North
survived
America
on
and Europe,
boiled greens and
a
whatever
historical view of
substitutes
climate's
could be
subtle
gathered.
touch.
Local relief efforts varied in effectiveness, and state governments lacked the centralized infrastructure to manage a crisis of such scale. The impact extended westward. As conditions deteriorated in New England, migration accelerated toward the Ohio
has
Valley
ruined the
and the
corn.
interior territories.
Not a single ear worth
While
saving.
westward movement
need to
had been
ration the
underway for
grain.
years, the crop failures of
this cold
1816
returns,
provided
we
a
won't
powerful
last.
push factor. Thousands left rocky farms for lands perceived as more fertile and climatically stable.
Snow.
The demographic
In June.
shift contributed to the rapid
can't
settlement
believe it.
of parts of
Nor
Ohio,
I.
Indiana, and
The corn's
Illinois in the
dusted white.
years that followed.
The year without a
Across
summer, they
the
say.
Atlantic, Europe endured parallel disruptions. The continent was still recovering from the Napoleonic Wars, which had destabilized economies and trade networks. In 1816, persistent rain and cold compounded existing vulnerability. In the British Isles, incessant downpours ruined hay and grain harvests. In Ireland, where large segments of the population relied heavily on potatoes, yields declined sharply. Food prices increased,
Prices keep
placing
climbing.
severe
Wheat's at
pressure
12
on
shillings
urban
now.
laborers and
It's a
rural
hardship.
tenants alike.
I can only afford a
On the
peck.
European mainland,
Why,
the
we'll
effects
manage.
were equally
Here you are.
severe.
Fodder's
Switzerland
gone. We have to.
experienced relentless rainfall and flooding.
Aye. The sheep next.
Grain harvests failed across
Hold it
parts
steady.
of France and the German states. In some regions, bread prices doubled or tripled. Food riots broke out in areas where shortages became acute. Governments attempted to respond through importation and price controls, but the scale of need exceeded available reserves. In Württemberg and other German territories,
1816,
hunger drove
families journeyed
emigration
west.
to North America
Through
in the
dense
years
forests,
immediately
they
following.
pressed on.
Keep
Famine
steady,
in
the path is
1816 and
rough ahead.
1817 was
The
not
children are
uniform across
tired.
Europe, but mortality rose in several regions, particularly where pre-existing poverty and war damage had eroded
The rain's
resilience.
done for the hay. Look at it. all matted
Malnutrition
and
weakened
black.
populations,
The grain's not
increasing
far behind.
susceptibility to
This damp will
disease.
bring the blight. We'll have to thresh
Typhus
quick.
outbreaks
Every day
spread in
lost is a
parts of
winter without
Ireland
bread.
and continental Europe during this period, facilitated by overcrowding and displacement. While the volcanic cooling was the primary climatic trigger, the severity of human suffering was shaped by social inequality, fragile infrastructure, and limited governmental capacity. Asia,
river is
too,
higher than last
experienced
spring.
disruptions.
The bridge groans.
In parts of
It may
China,
not
altered
hold.
monsoon patterns
The
brought
fields are
excessive
lost.
rainfall
We
and
must
flooding
salvage
along
what
the
we
Yangtze
can.
River basin.
Encore plus vite
Crop
qu'hier.
failures were recorded in Yunnan
Comment
province.
survivrons-nous?
Les
In
temps sont
India,
durs pour tous.
irregular monsoons
C'est la guerre
contributed
qui
to
nous a laissés
agricultural
ainsi.
stress, and in
Prenez soin de vous,
1817 a
vieil homme.
cholera pandemic emerged from the Ganges Delta region. Scholars continue to debate the extent to which climatic anomalies influenced the initial spread of cholera, but environmental instability likely played a contributing role by affecting water systems and human movement. The atmospheric effects of
granaries are
Tambora
empty.
also
Our children
manifested
go
in
hungry.
visual
The merchants
phenomena.
hoard grain while we starve. We must
Sunsets
act.
appeared unusually
To the
vivid
town
across
hall.
Europe
Demand
and North
fair
America,
prices.
Yes.
tinted with
For our
reds and
families.
oranges intensified by aerosol particles in the stratosphere. Artists captured these skies in paintings that, centuries later, would be analyzed for evidence of volcanic influence. These aesthetic
Hinter!
effects,
Sagte,
however,
das ist schwer.
stood in stark contrast to the
Vorsichtig, die
agricultural
Truhe hat Mutters
devastation unfolding
Erbstücke.
below.
Mutter, ist das unser
Economic
Schiff?
consequences
Kind.
rippled
Bald
through
segeln
global
wir.
markets. Grain shortages drove up prices, altering trade patterns. Britain increased imports from Eastern Europe and North America when possible, though shipping constraints and localized failures limited relief. In the United States, the combination of post-war economic contraction and agricultural disaster contributed to financial instability.
This
By
aged map of
1819,
East
the
Asia
nation would
shows the
experience a
Yangtze
major
River
economic
basin.
downturn known as
The
the
subtle
Panic of
red shading
1819,
indicates
shaped
areas
by
affected
multiple
by
factors
historical
including land
floods.
speculation and credit contraction, but preceded by years of rural distress. Technological responses emerged in the wake of scarcity. In Germany, the shortage of oats reportedly encouraged innovation in alternative transportation. Carl Drees developed a two-wheeled, human-propelled vehicle in 1817, sometimes cited as an early precursor to the bicycle. While its invention cannot be attributed solely to the climatic crisis, the broader context
The river
of resource
swells with the
scarcity formed
monsoon.
part of the environment
The
in
boats
which
are
such
secure.
experimentation
We must check the
occurred.
nets.
I
The
would
cultural
look now.
consequences of the cold summer were also significant. In 1816, a group of writers gathered at Lake Geneva, confined indoors by persistent rain. Among them were Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley and Lord Byron. During that unsettled season, Shelley began writing the novel that would become Frankenstein, a work often associated with themes of unnatural creation and environmental gloom. Byron composed the poem Darkness, envisioning a sun extinguished and a world plunged into cold. These literary works reflected the atmosphere of anxiety and uncertainty that characterized the year, though they were products of artistic imagination rather than direct chronicles of famine. Climatologists and historians have since reconstructed the sequence of events with increasing precision. Ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica contain
Was
sulfate
ist das für
layers
ein
corresponding to
Gerätadreis?
the 1815
Meine neue
eruption.
Laufmaschine. Seht, wie sie
Trailing
rollt.
data from
Ohne
North
Pferd?
America and Europe show
Unglaublich.
suppressed
Genau,
growth in
die Zukunft der
1816,
Fortbewegung.
consistent with lower temperatures. Contemporary diaries, parish records, and market accounts provide granular evidence of frost dates, rainfall patterns, and
A
price
spectral
fluctuations.
tale born of this endless
Together,
storm.
these
It
sources
captures the
confirm
dread
that the
of
year
nature's
without
fury.
summer was
And
a
of the
global
mind's dark
climatic anomaly
wanderings.
closely linked to Tambora's eruption. The crisis gradually eased after 1817 as stratospheric aerosols settled and temperatures recovered. Harvests improved in many regions, though some communities required years to rebuild herds, replenish seed stocks, and repay debts incurred during the famine. Migration patterns set in motion during the crisis reshaped demographics. Rural depopulation in parts of New England accelerated, while frontier settlements expanded. In Europe, emigration to North America increased through the 1820s, driven in part by memories of scarcity and economic hardship. The year
Steady
without
pressure.
summer
We're
stands
through
as a
the firm
reminder
layer.
of the
Copy.
interconnectedness
Base
of
is
natural
secure.
systems and human
All right,
societies.
lifting now. Check
A
for
volcanic
fractures.
eruption in Southeast Asia altered atmospheric chemistry in ways that reverberated across continents. The event occurred before industrial greenhouse emissions, demonstrating that natural climate variability alone could produce severe global consequences. At the same time, the scale of
These
human
parish
suffering
records
was
detail
influenced by
baptisms from
political
1805 to
structures,
1810,
economic
and the
inequalities,
market
and
ledgers show
limited
wheat prices
scientific
rising in
understanding.
1812. The entries
Early
are
19th
remarkably
century
detailed for the period.
societies lacked reliable meteorological forecasting and had little capacity to anticipate or mitigate such anomalies. Scientific awareness of volcanic climate effects developed gradually. In the decades following Tambora, researchers began to recognize patterns linking major eruptions to cooler temperatures. Later eruptions, such as Krakatoa in 1883, provided further data that strengthened the emerging field of climatology. Tambora's legacy thus
The
extended
grain
beyond
supply has
immediate
done
devastation,
wonders. I'll take 2
contributing to the
loaves.
foundation of modern climate
That will be
science.
6p.
Here
The
you
memory
are.
of
Thank you. Good day.
1816
Gentlemen, the
persisted in
Tambora
local
eruption of
histories and
1815
oral
ejected
tradition.
ash into the stratosphere.
In New
The
England,
ash veil
it was
reflects
sometimes called
sunlight, cooling the
1800 and
earth.
froze to
Indeed,
death.
and it disrupts circulation,
In Europe,
altering
it was
rainfall
remembered
patterns.
as a year of hunger and migration. Yet as decades passed and new crises arose, the global dimension of the event faded from common awareness. Only with 20th and 21st century research did the full planetary scope of Tambora's impact become clear. The year without summer did not alter political boundaries or produce a single defining battle. Its significance lies instead in the
1816 was a
quiet
cruel
but
year.
profound ways it
Frost in
reshaped
June ruined
lives.
our crops. We had to ration.
It exposed
you
the
survive it? By
vulnerability
helping
of
each other.
agricultural economies
shared
to
what-
climatic shocks. It accelerated migration patterns that influenced the development of regions and nations. It contributed to cultural works that continue to resonate. And it provided a case study in the far-reaching consequences of atmospheric change. In 1816, communities confronted a crisis they could neither see nor fully understand. The sky was dimmed by particles suspended beyond human reach, and harvests failed for reasons that defied immediate explanation. Yet within that uncertainty, records were kept, observations were made, and resilience was tested. The
These
eruption of
fences are
Mount
holding
Tambora
strong.
remains one of the most powerful
the
natural
crops
events
are
of the last millennium. Its aftermath, unfolding across fields, markets, and households worldwide, revealed how deeply human history can be shaped by forces originating far beyond the horizon.